Hey all, here are OS Reviews. Today we're taking a closer look at the Umidigi UFit. This is a budget smartwatch that sells for under 40 bucks, and you guys may remember that a while back we also checked out another budget watch from these guys called UWatch 3. The difference between the UWatch 3 and the UFit, which is the newer model, is that this one now comes with a blood oxygen monitor function, which is called SpO2. So this is an extra sensor located on the rear to detect the concentration of oxygen inside of your blood and to see if you are having any difficulties in terms of breathing. But pretty much every other aspect of the UFit is the same as the UWatch 3 that we saw from before. That includes having the same 1.3-inch TFT LCD display, which is curved at the edges, 2.5D. It includes 5 ATM for water resistance, so you can take it with you when swimming and it will survive. That's the same resistance as on their previous watch, in addition to having actually the same number of sports tracking modes as well, which is 9. This is by no means a replacement for a sports-specific tracker because it doesn't have, say, built-in GPS. It is very budget-oriented. However, it's more of an everyday casual smartwatch, I'd say. It has very good battery life, just like before, rated to last around 10 days when you're using it with the continuous monitoring turned on, and up to 30 days in the basic mode with things like Bluetooth and the auto heart rate sensor turned off, so it can last up to 1 month, which is pretty crazy. It uses the latest Bluetooth 5.0 chip, allows you to see basic notifications, and can also control your phone when you're connected in ways like playing and pausing your music and whatnot. Packaging is quite simple. It's the same style as we've seen from them for a while now. Has this kind of vinyl disc pattern on the top, and inside we have the charging cable. It's a magnetic pogo contact point that just sticks onto the back, and there's also a quick start guide. So taking a closer look at the design of the watch first, as aforementioned, it has a 1.3-inch display on the front, which is fully touch sensitive. It's actually very responsive, so you can use it to easily swipe to interact with the various keys. The interface style and the UI is the exact same as the UWatch 3, which is not surprising since they're from the same company. Now the frame of the body here is constructed out of a polycarbonate plastic, so overall it feels relatively lightweight, still has a decent amount of density to it overall. Now the button on the side, which is used to wake up the watch from sleep, it's a physical button that's a little bit longer than on the UWatch 3, which had more of a traditional crown key that was round. If you turn it around though, you will notice that it has the additional presence of the aforementioned SpO2 blood oxygen sensor, along with the PPG sensors for the optical heart rate sensing, and then the part that's used for magnetically charging the watch. The watch bands are once again removable, so you can use it to swap it out for different designs. Size-wise, it is a very compact watch, as most 1.3-inch watches are. It's quite similar to something like Xiaomi's Amazfit Bip, which is very popular, has very similar materials and build, which is also made out of a lightweight polycarbonate plastic. Taking a closer look at the UI here, we have the presence of a oversized clock along with the battery status. You can long hold on this main screen to change the watch face. There's 4 watch faces which are built in, but unfortunately there is no way to further expand on those choices. Most of these have a digital layout and shows you just the time info along with your steps and calories. The last one here though, it does have a more traditional kind of analog style that looks actually very cool because the styling here is also square, so it matches the shape of the watch. Swipe down to see any missed messages and notifications, and that's quite simple. You can see any quick subject lines, but you aren't able to reply to them, but it's still nice to have. I can swipe downwards to take a look at my number of steps walked today, as well as a visualization of at what points in time I was most active. It shows you a bit more details than on some other budget smartwatches, which is pretty neat. You can swipe down once again to see that converted into distance by miles, as well as calories burned, and then a aggregation for the total that you've done for the week. The left gives us quick controls, so things like turning on or off the continuous heart rate monitoring, the lift your wrist to wake the screen gesture, a do not disturb sleep mode, and also one that you can use to find your phone if you're connected using Bluetooth. I can swipe over to the right to see the full list of applications, things like the different sports that you can track in terms of your steps, your heart rate fluctuations during the session, as well as your calories burned, but again, it's pretty basic, giving us a more detailed breakdown that also consumes a little bit more power if you want to save that session and then analyze it later. In terms of the blood oxygen features, it's a process that takes about 20 seconds to get a measurement in my testing so far. So it's not necessarily going to be the fastest thing out there, but it's nice to see kind of every once in a while if you're feeling a little bit down or low on energy. The blood pressure function is estimated using the PPG sensors, but gives you a rough idea of what your blood pressure will be like. Similar to the U-Watch, there's also a relax or concentration function to help you wind down, and to help you do that, it will give you kind of breathing guides where it tells you to breathe in and breathe out to match the rhythm of this text and circle that appears. It's a feature that also is present on other watches such as by Samsung, and is a helpful little extra app that you can find on here. Other things on here include alarm, where you can turn on or off alarms that you've set up on the app, but you aren't able to set them up directly on the watch itself. There's also basic functions like a timer and stopwatch that you can use, and that works pretty well. The watch does have haptic vibrations, which will give you a buzz as confirmation when you're pressing something. And under settings is where you can do things like change the brightness of the display, as well as take a look at the kind of system properties for the software. But overall, the brightness I think is definitely sufficient at maximum brightness. In fact, it's more than good enough even for outdoor visibility. This is not a model that you'll have problems with in terms of seeing. The viewing angles are also quite good. Even at the minimum brightness, I think it's oftentimes already good enough, especially under moderate lighting environments. Now, we don't get any other extras on here though, such as a kind of flashlight app that turns the screen white. Furthermore, you aren't able to see your sleep data directly on the watch's UI itself. So even though it tracks hours that you've slept, your deep versus light sleep, that's something that you can only see on the phone once you sync your information over. Companion app called VeryFit Pro is generic, and it's the same one that was used on their previous watches as well, so really nothing new here, but it does connect to the watch relatively quickly. You can pull down to refresh on the data. It will show you out of a ring how many steps you've completed out of your own goal, calories burned, and then also more detailed info about your sleep, as aforementioned, your light versus deep sleep when you were awake and whatnot. It actually does work surprisingly well in terms of the accuracy of the sleep tracking, even though it doesn't tend to track naps during the day. I can tap on the ring here to take a closer look at that data visualization at points in time when I was most active. Same things goes with sleep as well as with heart rate. You can see that graph populate here on the view. Otherwise, you can also tap on device to do things like control what notifications you want to allow to pass through. You can control the music directly on the watch itself, which is kind of neat. So this is basically what it looks like. You're able to play and pause your tracks and also skip ahead. Now, one last thing you can do is check out your sports sessions that you've saved, and you can tap on the plus key here to begin a new session for things like running if you want to use the GPS chip on your phone. Overall, the UI of the app here is very simple and straightforward. It does preserve your information quite well and offers easy to understand UI. Very basic, but definitely gets the job done in terms of quickly syncing that info over onto your device. So that's more or less it as far as our hands-on review of the Umidigi UFit. So if you're a current owner, it's not really an upgrade aside from that one new sensor, but if you are trying to find a new watch, I guess this one does have some added features in there that could be worthwhile to consider at a similar price. So you can check out more details if you are interested in the links down below, but for now that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the Umidigi UFit Budget Smartwatch.